Okay, let's see. Hey, there we are. Oh, I have a Geico advertisement. Okay. Okay. Um. Okay. Sorry, this is brand new to me, so I'm trying to get this figured out. Um, I've got a major delay between what I'm seeing on my what is this called? Streamlabs OBS and what um, is showing on my Twitch screen. So hopefully I'm doing this correctly. If anybody pops in here, please let me know if you can hear me. First of all, I'm using my wife's headset that she uses for work, and I also have a webcam set up. I don't know if its mic is properly set up or not. This is my very first one of these, so we will see what happens. But welcome to my live stream. I don't really know exactly how I want to run this. There is a chat room, but obviously it is still empty because this is my first one. I was kind of thinking that I would work some and also try to answer questions and try and show things that you're interested in seeing me do, whether it be traditional comic book coloring, which is my background, or anything else. Sorry, I keep getting distracted trying to figure out. I'm clicking on a variety of things, trying to make sure my microphone is working. So hopefully everything is correct. And yeah, so I also have. Oh, I did have music running in the background. I always work with music, but being as I'm going to be talking, that might not be the best option for today. We'll see. We'll see what happens. If I get into it and music seems to be working fine, I'll continue with that, and you can have something to listen to when I'm not talking. Otherwise, you will have to listen to me, or mute me, whatever works for you. Okay, so I'm going to try not to look at my Twitch stream because that is confusing me, so I will probably only check back in with the chat room if I see anybody popping up. Otherwise, just sit back, enjoy, and I will try and talk through what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So for my inaugural piece, my very first Twitch live stream coloring process, I picked a Black Panther drawing by an artist, Pt1. He is a spectacular artist and a nice guy also in all of my interactions with him. I have been struck with his work. He has a great sense of volume and shading specifically that gives these really nice volumes. I like his line work. On this piece specifically, I don't know if it was a commission or a sketch. I did find it online. I do have permission from him to use it as well, though. So the background is very rough, as you can see. You know, it's just kind of sketched in. I don't know if it was a convention sketch or what, but I am going to focus on the figure as more of a traditional comic book coloring, and then try and work the backgrounds and some of the environmental stuff as more painterly. That is kind of my traditional training, is in painting. And so what I do first is, since this is from the web, it is not the highest resolution. So if we take a look at its image size, it is only, well, 960 by 1521 pixels. Let's look at that in terms of inches. So print resolution, if we were to make this for print, you want a minimum of 300 pixels per inch. And then I like working at 17. That width is 11 by 17 is kind of a standard size. In this case, it is more than 17 high, so I'm going to make that 17 by 10.73. Click OK. It is going to make it, as you look at the preview screen here, it is going to pixelate it a bit, a lot actually, but that's going to be okay for my purposes because I will probably paint over a lot of the pencil work. I believe this is all pencil, no ink, so that creates a whole different set of issues which I'll address as they happen. So click OK. So now, as you can see, we got a bit more of the JPEG artifacts showing up now that we've increased the resolution. I like having things nice and regular, so I am going to actually increase the canvas, pardon me, increase the canvas to 11 inches, just so that it makes the nice 11 by 17, and I will fill in that stuff with some of my background work. So that is the prepping of the actual size. Now what I want to do is run a script that I originally received from Hi-Fi Coloring in one of their books, Hi-Fi Master Color, I can't remember, one of the Hi-Fi books. And there's a script that basically what it does is it takes the black and white line work, or the grayscale line work in this case, and copies it, pastes it into a new channel, and then you can create a layer of line work that you can manipulate in other more useful ways once you get into the coloring process. So I will go Scripts, Hi-Fi Step 1, and since I'm doing this at 300, I will select 300 DPI. There we go. It all disappeared from the layers, but it is in the channels in a line art channel. So I also have a bunch of actions which I need to find. Make holds layer with line art, and click play that action. So now I have a holds layer. Why that's important to do is I should have done this previously. What it shows is how now I can like grab a color. I'm going to pull. If you see in my screen that shows my face in there, you can't really see it, but I have a Cintiq monitor on. Actually, I'm going to do this, which is probably going to be a really bad idea, since I can't tell exactly what's happening. I have a Cintiq on a Ergotron articulating arm that can go up and down. It is an older Cintiq. Let's reattach this back to my... Sorry about that. You guys deserve a better streamers, but you're the one I get. I'm the one you get. Sorry. And it allows me to lift my monitor up, place it down in positions that I want, and make it work. Sorry, I'm still adjusting things. Okay, I won't do that ever again. Sorry. So that was me bringing my monitor down, is why I was trying to explain that. I probably should also get into a little bit of some of the hardware I'm running. I have a super powerful PC that I just built. Got all the bells and whistles. I am running Windows 10. I have Adobe CC 2018, whatever the newest one is. It always updates on me, so I never know exactly which version I'm using. I use one of these guys. This is a Razer Nostromo, or no, sorry. It used to be a Razer Nostromo, but I've burned through a few of those. And this is a Razer Tataris V2. I like it. It's actually for gaming mostly. Most people use it for games. But I use it for all my keyboard shortcuts, so I don't even use a keyboard anymore. 99% of the time, I just have my hand bouncing across these keys like a gamer, and have all the keys programmed into be specific things like selecting and getting a brush and making the brush size bigger and smaller, and the scroll wheel is set to zoom, so I can just zoom in and out, and one of the buttons is a hand tool to make me pan around. So that's why when I'm working, you'll see me go, I mean, my fingers are literally just kind of flying across the keys. And I don't even think about it anymore. I just kind of have them memorized, and it's kind of an automatic response. What else? I did mention I was using a Cintiq. It is an older Cintiq. It is the 21UX. I have been holding off upgrading because I knew that the new 4K Cintiq Pro 24-inch is coming. It was supposed to be in, theoretically, in January of 2018. It is January 30th today and still not available as far as I can tell. Hey, Drasslord, you were my first follower ever, I believe, on Twitch. So hey, thank you very much. And glad you can hear me fine. Hopefully that's what you were saying when you say you're doing well. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it's a older Cintiq, but the new one is coming, and as soon as it is available, I will be finding me a tax-free place to buy it, since I'm in Washington State and we got a lot of tax. So, what am I doing here? Okay, so I got my hold slayer, and what I usually do, I pretty much always send out work to be flatted by somebody else, because that is not a part of the job that I appreciate, or not appreciate, I enjoy. I do appreciate a very good flatter, but I don't like doing it. But in this case, I was kind of torn when I was deciding to use this piece, if I was going to go straight in as a flatting piece, or if I was going to do it just randomly, like a concept art piece where I just kind of start in painting and use this as a template. I think I'm going to flat this real quick, at least the figure. It's not too complicated, and it'll help me separate out the figure from the background elements, so I can have a lot more options in that case. So what I do is I drop the holds layer down, about 50. Here's, I just picked random slider, it went to 59, but it can be anywhere, just so I can kind of see my lines underneath. I take a flat up, I call it my flatting pencil, it's a custom one. It's just a round, hard round pencil tool. No aliasing, no nothing. I avoid all aliasing when flatting. Armani Drasslord asked me what flatting is. Flatting is the taking of a black and white line drawing and creating the large shapes that the colorist will use to make selections. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, the way I flat is not probably actually, I know, not the typical way, is I use the pencil tool and just kind of draw in the shape, and then I'm going to fill this once I get a closed shape. Again, you can see, because I'm zoomed in so much, how really pixelated this got when I increased the resolution, or because it's not, you can't just make up pixels from nothing. So when I increase the resolution, it doesn't know what to do, so it kind of blurs and tries its best. Photoshop does its best to try and make a guess as to what those pixels would be, but it usually just creates kind of this blurry mess. Like, look at that. That's definitely not print quality. But I like to work at print resolution, because then when I color, my brushes react in the same way that it would on a print piece, so that I know, as a learning tool, when I'm practicing, like this is just for practice and for fun, I know how things will respond when I'm actually using them on regular full quality line work. I'm just gonna, since I'm gonna be painting in a lot of this background elements, I'm just gonna block off that whole actually this cape goes clear back here. Block that off like that. And a good flatter is, number one, they are accurate. Um, they, I mean, this piece is would be kind of a flatter's nightmare probably, um, because it is so open and loose and just I'm not sure if that's supposed to be part of the hand. I don't think it is, so I'm gonna cut it there. Um, and a flatter likes to should stay. The theory is you stay in the center of the line, and in this case, the lines are pencils, which makes it harder, and they're also open here. You see, there's gaps in the lines, which is a very great artistic look, and it fits Philip's work very well. It gives it that life. The incomplete line makes your mind fill in the gap. But as a flatter, though, it creates problems. I actually started as a flatter in my colorist industry journey. I did flats for a variety of people, but probably the most notable or known person would be John Rausch. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Um, and I was terrible, and I have apologized multiple times for the flats I've given him because once I started working as a colorist myself, I I started getting people who knew how to flat properly, and I saw all the difference it made. And yeah, I was not a very good flatter. It was probably good that I moved on to actually doing full color work because I was probably not long for the world of flatting. I don't think I would have. I think my reputation would have probably ended that career prematurely. Okay, so you can see I did here. First of all, I did a full outline around the character, and now I switched to the paint bucket tool with my shortcut key on my hand thing, my Tataris, and I want it to be contiguous, which means that it's only going to paint bucket the stuff inside a closed shape. So I just paint bucketed inside there. Actually, I think that might be his cape. That's what I was seeing over there. So I'm just going to fill that in. So that creates the. Actually, I think it goes all the way down. Now that I'm analyzing the piece a little more, that's something you'll see as you get into things. You're like, oh, I guess there's more to it than I thought. Okay, so I'm just putting it all the way down, mostly for the sake of ease. So if I turn off the holds line, which is all the line art, and zoom in super close, you will see that it is completely hard edges. There is no aliasing on this thing at all, which is what any flatter that turns in aliased lines, not good. So, and that little dot there you saw was one of the hazards of my method of flatting using the pencil, is when I sometimes make a pencil mark, it will like create this, you can see a dot right here in the center, and when I paint bucket, oh, I turned off the contiguous, it leaves that, and that's no good. As a flatter, you want everything to be in there. So let's just back out right there. Okay. So now we have our basic shape of the Black Panther. Put the line work back on. So I have another script that I created that I'm probably not going to use on this one. I'll save that for like a page or something. And actually, it's an action, not a script. And what it does is it creates a whole bunch of layers that I use, mostly on my Batman and Turtles pages with Freddie Williams. But in this case, I kind of just want to let it be its own thing right here. I think I am going to flat. I mean, a flatter would definitely need to. Oh, I got sample of layers. That's why it's a problem. So I selected all the blue. I'm going to separate out the gloves, the cape, the eyes, and the metal bits here. because I think that, while not necessary, it will probably make my life a little easier as I get into this. And as you'll notice, this blue is completely random. I usually pick high contrasting colors when I flat, just so I can see easily. Because if I picked a blue that was close to the blue that I've already got here, I wouldn't, like, for example, let me just sample and say that is technically a different blue, but look how hard it is to see where I have gone versus that you can see really easy. So I'm going to select that color and just paint back at that bit. So put the other hand in there, the glove, not hand. And as you notice, once I magic wanded the blue, all I am doing is coloring inside that area. I know a lot of this is fairly basic stuff, and if I get feedback in the chat, oh, hi Drasslord, more stuff, then I will adjust my teaching, I guess, my what I explain to fit the audience a little better. What do you say? Definitely gives me insight on how you work. Has me excited for when the jam is finished and I send you the digital scans. Oh yeah, the Turtles universe thing. That's a hell of a piece, man. Very impressed that you got that. Sorry, I bumped my mic. Hope that didn't screw it up. Yeah, if you want, when I do start that, if you want me to make that part of this series, I would love to use that as gosh, that'd probably be a week-long series, I bet. But yeah, or more. So anyhow, we can deal with that when it crosses. But yes, that turtle piece is quite the piece you got there. Let's see. So it looks like the leg comes back here. One thing about being a colorist is it is, in many ways, a lot of drawing, in my opinion. I know there are some colorists that don't draw very much, but that I think, especially on work like this, and the stuff that I do with Freddie Williams on Batman and Turtles and all the other projects we've done, I think being able to draw a little bit, I am nowhere near professional level, definitely helps. I started it as, well, I started like most people, I just love drawing. And then I became an inker, which actually, to be a good inker, you really need to be a solid draftsman to be able to draw as well. Let's see. And it would be a long series, eat them aloud. Okay, cool. But yeah, being able to draw has helped me. My background is I have a degree from the University of Washington in interdisciplinary visual arts. I think I've mentioned that in other interviews and stuff before, but yeah, so I did take a lot of painting classes, color theory, figure drawing. I was never I would say I was never fully proficient in the figure work. I always wanted to be, but I was a terrible student of studying things. I didn't like to study. I didn't like the anatomy, and so it just never clicked for me. And now I am in my 40s, and it, as sad as it sounds, it's kind of like that ship has sailed. I know it hasn't, but for me, I am very happy doing what I do, and I've found a measure of success and comfort in the quality work that I now produce. Actually, that cape is okay. I'm spending way more flatting this than I expected, but that's okay. Mostly because I'm talking. I actually am somewhat known as for my speed. Oops. somewhat known for my speed, and I am not really proving that today. But that's okay. I'm not. This isn't a speed piece. This is just a fun experiment, getting my feet wet in the Twitch world. My kids love Twitch. They watch game. Again, that is what happens when you do not have a closed shape, which is down here is where that happened. So the leg came down and I didn't close it here. Now it's a closed shape. I think these. So this is, if I remember correctly, not the current costume. It is the costume that was used on the Marvel Knights line of comics back in, I don't even know the day, back in the day. And it is, so these were originally gold in that version. All the metallic bits here were gold. I'm going to actually convert them to silver because I like that the current look a little better. I think it fits the character nicely. Absolutely nothing against the original designer, but I think that for my purposes on this piece specifically, I want to do what I think is going to make my piece the most interesting it can be. Oops. Magic wand. So the magic wand is a W. I've got that programmed. All the shortcut keys, if you are going to color, do yourself a favor and study and learn, use as many of the shortcut keys as you can. It will not just improve your speed, but I believe personally that it will improve the work because you will not be focusing on the how to color and you will be focusing on the why to color. And I think that's a much more interesting question about why am I coloring something this way, and how does actually again oops, all my talk of using keyboard shortcuts and now I'm not doing them right. And I will make one small excuse for that. The main excuse is that I did, as I mentioned, I used to have a Razer Nostromo, but now I have a Razer Tataris. Well, the Tataris has an extra set of keys, an extra row of keys at the top, which my muscle memory on my hand has not adapted yet. It's only been a month, maybe, I think I've had this, because my other ones keep dying. And because I use them 8 hours a day, and they are not intended for that kind of abuse. So, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to call that good on the costuming bits, I think. So what I do now is I go back, bump the holds all the way back up to 100%. And that'll, my flats are down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the layer, and I should do it right since I'm showing you how. And rename your layers, make them obvious. So flats is going to be my new layer. So that background layer, yes, those are my flats. But those are kind of a reserve, just a way of making the selection easier. What I'm going to do now is adjust those flats by just dropping in some colors that I think would be good for this. These are rough colors. Oops, I can get rid of the contiguous now because I want to fill everything that is that color. And I usually go very dark to start with. Actually, I want those to be lighter. I want those to be that color. The cape, I think, actually, I want the cape to share some of this near color. On the trim, if I remember right, the trim had it was gold trimmed. It's going to be silver in mine, obviously, but okay. And the rest of the cape bits, I'm going to make just a nice grayish there. And the eyes, I think I want the same. Actually, I want them a little darker. That stuff dark. The eyes that color. All right, so that gives me my base. Since he's in the jungle. Oh hey, what do we got here? Ice pick. That must be. Yeah. So that's a great point about the thinking side of coloring. That's one thing I definitely struggle with, and is to color something in a way I'm comfortable but still produce good work. Thank you. And also, thank you for joining my stream. Welcome. Let's see. Where was it? Oh, yeah. Background. Black Panther. I get distracted fairly easily, especially since I'm not used to talking and working. I pretty much. Yes, I figured it was Todd. I was like, oh yeah, Ice Pick. That's your book you make. This is really awesome. So if you guys see Todd, he is local to. I think you're local to the Portland area, right? Um, Portland, Seattle. At least you're one of my locals. And Todd's been a great supporter, friend over the years, and he does his own book. And yeah, and make sure you put up you guys' Twitter or Facebook in the chat too, if people want to follow you, because anyone who would follow me is probably worth being followed by other people. So you're in good company. We'll let my little ego thing say that. So yeah. Okay, background. So he's a jungle guy. So I'm going to toss in just a standard green. That background is going to change dramatically throughout this. Yeah, definitely not that green. Not that. That's a lime. Okay. I'm. If anybody knows my style, my colors, I tend to be on the more muted, neutral, natural side of coloring. Um, but yeah. So it really, at this point, probably it does not even matter what color's in the background. But I tend to fuss things a lot, so that then get completely wiped over. So I'm going to play with this background just a hair. I think I'm not sure, but I think this might have been intended to be the light source. And because of the way it is, and I would imagine, to me it feels like a nighttime scene, or at least I love nighttime scenes, so I'm gonna stick with that. So I'll probably end up using like a cool light as the main light source, which I think will also work well against his very black costume, and then allow me to do some fun stuff in the backgrounds as well. Let's So if that's going to be the case, I want this to be more blue in the background. Yeah, that works. And then merge that down. I just right-clicked on it and merged it down. So, also, I'm going to have to bring all this stuff into alignment a bit more. So this needs to go darker. I think I mentioned this, but I work very dark to light, especially on a piece like this where the blacks are not solid ink blacks. It will be treated more like a painting where I am responsible for putting in some of these really dark areas. Actually, let's just merge that down, select from that, and I'm just going to lighten that a couple points here, and probably lighten another 2-3 points for the cape. Oops, deselect, fill that. Another couple points for the trim, and a pretty good jump for the metal bits. Okay. Sorry, I'm adjusting. So that gives me the very bare bones of things. So I'm going to duplicate that right there. Yeah, I think that works. So what I'm going to now is for me, the fun part. And I am going to really just kind of play around a little bit first. I have a lot of brushes here. Where's the one I like for a good background starter? It's a, oh, here it is. The group brush. So I'm going to set that to screen. I'm going to pick kind of my moon base color and just kind of, yeah, okay. Select the background, and I'm just going to kind of drop, what's going on here with this one? I got the wrong setting. Never mind. Let's, alright, I don't see it. We'll just go with this guy, because I know it works. It's actually one I use for smoke a lot of times, but I think it'll... So I'm just going to start laying in some colors here. Actually, I should probably separate out because of the way I'm going to paint over this. Screw it. I'll just work this way. Okay. And I'll just have to do some adjustments later. I'm going to put in some values here. I'm just going to kind of play with some color. Just to kind of give the background some sort of some interest. And then I'm actually going to do this is kind of a cheat that I didn't discover, create. Oh shoot, I forgot to mention one thing. Sorry, I just looked up here. You see where has my file name and it says Flats copy and RGB8. So that means I am working in RGB. Because I didn't run my other script, I do not have my proofing on, my CMYK proofing. So I always work with CMYK proofing on. What that does is I like to work in RGB because it allows a lot of the tricks that I use with screen layers and all sorts of fun effects to work easier. But in print, having things be RGB does not work because it's too wide of a gamut. It has too many colors that can't print. So like you'll do this really great Dayglow pink that would be cool in like a video game or on screen or on a movie, but when you go to print that on paper, the 4-color print process will just turn it to mud, or at least knock it down quite a bit, and so you'll be very disappointed with your printed work. So I always soft proof, which is using the software to proof my colors, so that I see what I am actually going to get when I print. So select that. Oh, okay. So what I was going to say was my trick. So I create a new layer, and I set it to screen mode. And then I create a layer mask, fill it with black so that nothing that I put on the screen mode will show. And then I pick whatever light source color I want, and I fill the layer with it. So if I disable this screen, this layer mask, oops, wrong button, that's what I am, if I turned everything in this mask layer white, that would be what happened. So now I can take my selection and then work in my screen mask layer, and let's just go with a chalk brush. That's my nice general go-to brush. And I'm not deselecting things. I am using hide. I hide the selection because the marching ants thing just bugs me. So I always hide it so I can actually see better. And then using a white on the black mask, I just paint in some of the light source that I want, just to give it a little bit of a starting point so that I can see where it's headed. and just kind of pick out some of the bigger light areas. Looks like we got a few bits here and there. Again, being a penciled piece that is very kind of rough in areas. I mean, it's very tight and nice in many areas, but overall, it'd be considered a fairly loose rendering. Um, it's important to get some of this stuff in early and loose so that you see where you're headed instead of trying to figure it all out in the final ways. So yeah, so that gives me that. And the reason I'll show you one of the reasons why I created this trick is, say I don't like the cool light source. I can, it's giving away trade secrets, but I'll do it anyway. Okay, so I make my hue saturation layer and I lock it down. I click that button there, which locks it down. And now, if I want, I can make that light any color I want, and it will only affect the area that is light. I can make it really saturated if I want, and I just want to actually use it as colorized mode. I can, really, if I wanted something very strong, I can go like there. But I think a blue, nothing too intense, kind of on again on the neutral side. I think I should, blue it up just a little, make it a little bluer. And you can either merge that down when you think it's ready, or I might as well actually merge down and then select the next area. And again, go back into the mask, kind of paint in some of the lights. And some of my process is informed by my painting background. Like, as you'll notice, I don't, like a lot of colorists, I don't do one area to completion. I kind of bounce all over the page and work it all at the same time. I also have a tendency to do that when I'm working on a book. I like to have the whole book, and I'll open a whole bunch of pages and work across all the pages that I can, to keep them all uniform. I don't know if it's faster or if it's just a method I've gotten used to doing, but it works out that way for me. So yeah, just pull in some of these there. Okay, and then I'm going to continue working like that. We'll put the cape, some of those highlights in the cape. And because it is a pencil piece, I can do a lot more effect on some of these faded penciled areas, and I will do a lot more of that as the piece develops. And the little wing bits here, right there. Just kind of pop those up, and the metal and eyes. So I'm just looking for the areas that are what I would consider the most hit by that light source. And then the eyes, I think I'll probably end up having kind of a glowy effect on those, just to make it a bit more interesting on that. I'm going to go back in and, oops, I got to deselect all that. Pop a few more bits here that I wasn't seeing as I was zoomed out. I have nothing selected here, so if I went into the background, I would now be coloring the background bits, which I'd rather not do, but it happens. Okay. Oh, and part of his belt down here. Okay, so that is the vast majority of some of the figure bits. Because this is a pencil piece, like I said, I'm going to have to do some, what I call kind of backing up in the blacks to make them be darker. So what I'm going to do is instead of straight up painting black into it, I want to have a little more control. So I am going to, similar to what I did with this screen layer, I am going to create a multiply layer with kind of this dark neutral grayish blue, and theoretically fill it. Sorry. One thing about Photoshop CC that I don't like is for some reason I'm having trouble when I click on like the layer mode. It doesn't like to have it just be there and me able to keyboard out of it. I have to actually hit the enter key. Okay, so now I have a layer mask as well, and now what I do is I'll find these black areas and I will paint them in a little more to darken them up. I might, actually I know I'm going to end up doing this, but as the piece goes on, I will probably switch to a actual black to give it a really inky darkness. Actually, oh, I'm like, why isn't it doing it? You know what, I'm going to actually just turn this layer, layer to black. Now I can do it that way. And just kind of paint in some of these really dark areas that an inker would have probably already turned into solid black. Again, I'm going to have to be a little careful because the way it's drawn and my low resolution source material, it could easily wipe out a lot of his intended rendering, and the last thing you want to do is destroy all the effort that an artist went into to make the rendering really solid and nice. So that's why I'm kind of zoomed in a little more. I did deselect, so there's a risk of me coloring over some of my other selections, but I'm willing to risk it because I think it's going to be better to be able to just treat the whole thing as a solid piece at the moment. Fill in some of this. I'm probably going to pop in some light. Hey, Martin. You're... Oh, yeah. Rose City. Yep. How you doing, man? Thank you for joining in on the stream. Always good having you around, seeing you around. One thing, this is getting a little haphazard, but some of the black areas I try and make blacker up against the lightest parts, and then when I put in what's going to be kind of a reflected light, I will have more of a transition into them. It's hard to probably explain without actually showing it, so we will see. I guess. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that puts some of the dark back into the piece. I am enjoying my first Twitch stream. It is not easy for me, to be honest. I am not a good talker and doer at the same time, so that could be interesting to see how that all goes. But hopefully, gosh, something is attacking me like crazy. If you see down here the Norton. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So, I think that's a good start on the figure. At least it gives me a contrast shape that I can block in. And now I'm going to move into the background a bit. Actually, I'm going to do this over. I'm going to create a new layer to do the background on because it is going to go over the front here. And I think that it's. Gosh, I probably should just flat that. And I don't want to flat that out. Okay. So I'm just going to do some selecting and blocking in of some shape areas. I want this side to be the strong light source area, but I also want the focus to be right. You want, to me, this is the focus area right here, is the face and this hard light. I want it to be less noticeable down here, more faded in. First timer seems natural for you. Yeah, well, it doesn't feel natural to me, but thank you for saying that. I hope as I do more of these, I'll get better. I used to spend a lot of time volunteering in the schools, teaching mostly elementary school students. So I was doing some talking at the same time as working, but generally, all I have going is music. You're quiet. I didn't know you had a Twitch stream. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I was looking around for people that did them, and I found Nick Filardi and his stream, and I thought that was pretty cool. And that was kind of one of the things that inspired me to kind of think about doing some more of this type of stuff. Plus, I have talked about this, I think, on my page, my Facebook, and previous posts and stuff, that colorists, specifically, I work largely in isolation, and this is kind of a social. Twitch streaming is a social thing, and it's nice to have some sort of socialness, and yeah, and people to talk to, because it can be pretty darn lonely at times in the colorist world. So I'm doing this over the artwork, the figure work, because it's on a separate layer. Put me in a channel with my Ralph Fossies and I'm fine. Solo, I'm awkward. Yeah, I think the awkwardness is just one of the things that creatives. I mean, I know that's a stereotype. I know there are some artists and creatives that are just super social and nice and able to just have a conversation. I am not one of those. I try, and I've gotten a decent fakeable ability, but it's still never in my natural state to be social. But yes, having people in the chat, it does help. I was honestly, I was very worried. I had a lot of people interested when I mentioned I was going to do this on Facebook and Twitter, and oops, that's what I get for talking. I get on the wrong thing. Let's get out of there. Out of that one, sure. And I hid all the layers. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I had interest on the Facebook and stuff, and I was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens, because a lot of people they say, oh yeah, that sounds great, and then they don't show up, and that's fine. But I was a little worried that I would have a very empty chat room, and you guys have been great and supportive and helping me through this difficult time. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate all you guys showing up. Not very social at all. You've always been very great, especially, well, mostly I talk to you at shows, but you're quite the social guy. I'm impressed. I would have never pegged you as the guy who's a hermit. You do what you say. Yes. Thank you. Seems to be a rarer breed lately to actually be somebody who does does what they say they're gonna do. So, all right. So I'm getting some of this background. I am just fairly noodling at this point, um, just trying to talk and get certain parts of the piece coming together. Uh, I use, I don't know if you'll notice over here, I'll do a little bit of explaining. I use a lot of layers in my work. I I don't know if that's a a lack of confidence thing or just I like to the effects of how you can do it, but I will often create many layers and then go in and tweak and adjust and pull out layers that I don't think are working or things that I think are. Um, and then paint. Usually it's I just paint over stuff. That also comes from my background in as an oil on canvas painter. I the undo function is very much unused in my process. I try not to use it. As my old NCO used to say, be a doer, not a sayer. Exactly. I agree with that sentiment. And the old say what you mean and do what you say sort of thing. Um, yeah, that's up there with one of my number one rules of. And my sons will vouch for this. My number one rule in life is don't be a dick. Um, so that kind of fits in that same category, in my opinion. Saying one thing and doing another kind of is a dick move. Okay. By the way, anybody who has an aversion to potentially harsh language like dick and stuff, I might not be the best channel for you. I do not swear all the time, but it does pop in. Um. Okay. Uh. I can't repeat what what the SO said. Yeah. My dad was a Marine. Okay. So, is this going to be cover art for a book or just artwork? No, this is just straight up for fun. I been the reviews, early whatever stuff for Black Panther came out, and people are doing a lot of talk about it. Philip Tan's work is something I really enjoy, so I just kind of searched for a Black Panther piece to work on for today. His came up, and yeah, I think this is what's the date on this? 2014. So yeah, this is just a for fun sort of piece. Um, Now to one thing I'm gonna do starting here is I'm gonna start working over the lines a little bit. Just because this piece is so rough and I want and like this trees and things, I want to be much more painterly. Ignore reviews when it comes to movies I want to see. Yes, I agree. I do not. I am very much a. I want to go into the movie as blind as possible, and sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. Um, but usually I'm pretty successful at avoiding a lot of the reviews. I had a good. I kind of like this wedge one for going over sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to select and just start kind of blocking in. Actually, I want those a little darker. Because the background here is going to be much more painterly than any of the line work of the figure. I'm not sure how well that'll work. We'll give it a shot and see what happens. I'm actually going to select the background so I don't screw up and paint over too much. Actually, I want this to have. I'm turning on the opacity on the flow. There we go. So it gives it gives a nice shape, but doesn't completely overwrite everything because I want to go back into it and so I'm going to bring in some color. Actually, I want bluish and purples instead of that. Okay, I might have over knocked out my brush here. Oh, duh. It's because it's because I'm outside the selection. I forgot I that selection does not cover into there. So let's put that back on. There we go. I will go back and put Philip's signature back on here, but for now, our signatures will have to wait. So, being as this is jungle, I'm going to try in my painterly way to represent a little bit of a leafy, broadleaf, rainforesty style of foliage. I don't know how successful I will be with that, but that is going to be my goal. I'm going to start establishing a little bit of light source on this branch. Not a ton, but just pull some of that up. I sample a lot. I just one of the Alt key is probably one of my most used keys. Um, so so yeah. Kind of. I do have a tendency to be very noodly sometimes in my colors. Some people like that about my work. Some people are like, it's kind of sloppy, but that's okay. It's just my style, I guess. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it is a little on the sloppy side. So I guess there is a point to be had there. So I'm gonna block in some more of these lights. I made that too big, too thick. I want to get some of his vine work back in here. Actually, that's probably what that was. That wasn't the light, the moon. That was the vines. Some days. Actually, I want the flow instead. Okay, so I'm getting into a bit of the. Oops, that's too dark. That's way too light. Okay, let's go back to. I like playing with all sorts of different brushes. Only when I'm uh, working for fun. A lot of time when it comes to actual paid work, I tend to stick to things that I know work a little better, more consistently. That's not gonna work. Um, yeah, I try. I'll just goof around a lot of times. That was pretty good. Let's put the flow to pressure. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, still a little much. Let's go opacity to pressure as well. Okay, did we lose it all? Okay. You are seeing me at my best, experimenting and not getting it right. Sure. Why my opacity is so light. Okay, let's just go back to my standard stuff because that's messing around is just being a little bit obnoxious. I'll go back and pull out some detail-y stuff with some fun brushes later. So I spend a lot of time working on the backgrounds. That's I love working, on landscape painting and abstraction and things of that like. So I think that kind of pulls through into my coloring as well, and has a tendency to possibly overwrite some of my figure sensibilities, which I guess can be good. So yeah, right now it's just pulling in bits of that green to certain areas to kind of give it some light. Um, this back here, actually, I'm going to do another trick, and that is to put a layer mask over my line art and start blocking out some of it with a brush. Just to kind of... I don't do this all the time. It's only on more painterly type pieces when I want to really push some of the edges a bit. Mostly it's where the light really hits the edges. What do we got here? How did you become a color artist for the Turtles series? No, that's random, but that's good too. I like that, works for me. Well, I I was lucky. Um, I had worked with Freddie Williams back in the day, um, as his inker on a small press. Gosh, what was it? It was Marcosia? No, Ape, I believe. Ape Entertainment. Um, Small press book called Project Eon, and we had kind of become friends on that. And I just kind of we'd kind of roughly stayed in touch, followed each other on the social media and typical stuff like that, but nothing real tight. And then he had seen me doing some color work and kind of liked the painterly approach I was getting out of my work. And then he was developing this new style, I guess it was, of the ink wash work, and he thought that if I could pull it off, some of my painterly stuff would probably look pretty good over his ink wash stuff. And so we did a little try out, I guess it was, and he liked what I did. We had a couple back and forth revision stuff, trying to get us all on the same page. And then he basically asked Jim Chadwick, the editor on the book, if I could color it. And at the time, I believe Jim actually had to go to bat for me as well with DC because of they had it was difficult to get new people on at the moment, new artists on, and so I was able to get on, and Freddie and I have had a great working relationship since. But basically, yeah, I knew somebody who needed the work, who needed me to work, wanted me to work with them, and it just kind of happened from there. And I hear that story, not my specific story, but that type of story quite often in the comic world. That it's kind of well, I knew somebody, and they liked my work, so we started working together. So that's kind of my story. Okay. So that's the start of the background. Um, it's very rough still, and I will be doing a lot more to it. So, I don't know if I Did I cover over any? I did do a little bit over the figure. That's just the layer all by itself. Trying to make sure I don't have anything too much over the figure because I want to work on the figure some more. Do I usually just keep pulling colors from the piece itself instead of selecting new colors? Both. I try to establish kind of a palette early on with the big shapes, and then use that as the major colors within it. I do try to incorporate new colors as I think they're needed, especially like a lot of times when I'm pulling in like super highlights, those don't exist yet in the palette. So I will, like here, one of the things I want to do is first of all create a new layer. Select the Panther. Pretty much all of him, I think, right? Yeah. And I'm actually going to create a layer mask so I can just paint within that. I want to get this color and get a very bright version of it so that I can then actually, I think I'm going to do that. And I don't think I'm ready to go over the line work on this yet. And pull in some of that. As far as other actual colors besides highlights, yeah, I will add colors in as I think they are necessary. I like keeping things very unified and logical, which is one of the things that sometimes torments me because I see so many colorists doing these really wacky, insane sort of color palettes, and I'm just like, my head doesn't, my sense of color and storytelling just, I guess, is too normal, too realistic, in some ways pedestrian, I guess, that I don't use a lot of crazy fun colors, but I will when the mood strikes branch out. However, on this piece, this is definitely not one of those pieces where I am going too crazy. I guess I could have done something very crazy with the background and maybe a strong pink light source or something, but it's Black Panther. It's to me the logical, which gets me in trouble sometimes. The logical solution is to stick with a more natural tone because he is mostly in this piece in the jungle, and yeah, I think it fits his character better to have something that is a logical thing instead of a visually, I don't know, something that's just there because it looks cool. I try not to do things just because I think it'll look cool. I know that is a very valuable part of comic books, is the cool factor. For me, a lot of times does it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, I usually don't do it. So, there you go. Long answer short. Okay. Or short answer long, probably. Actually, I should be having this over top of all these other layers because, except, oh shoot, that doesn't work with the line art. Maybe over that layer. No, there, underneath the line art. And then, yeah, there we go. Now I can cover that back up where I painted over it with the greens from the outside, which I'm actually going to pull back in a little bit because this area is supposed to fade into this. Yeah, there we go. Some of this too. I think I might. So to have this kind of green down here in the jungle area, there should be something a little different. I'm going to put more of a yellow, and I'm gonna experiment with putting a little bit of a yellow light, warmer light on him and see if it doesn't look awful. I don't want too much because I don't want it to look like he's got like there's this really, kind of weird extra warm light source on one side of him, but I do want, like, see how the bicep here, I want it to kind of pop forward a little bit, and if I can add some reflected light in here, I can push that a little bit. I think I was mentioning that a little bit earlier in the stream, that I wanted to be able to have stuff like that in here. So that gives a little bit of color. I'm no expert on Twitch, but I'll try to help you out wherever I can. Thank you. I need it. No, this stream is going surprisingly well. My goal is to do a stream every Tuesday and Thursday. I think would probably be good for me. It depends on workload. I'm trying to get some people, some jobs to approve me for having them as my Twitch live colors. We'll see what how that works out. Hopefully they will say, "Hey, that'd be awesome, go for it." But if not, that's cool too. I can always work something out. Okay. This is turning into much more of a painted piece than I expected. Okay, so I am going to actually create a new layer, and I'm going to put a duplicate of that mask on it, so I'm just working on the figure here. Oh, but that's not going to work. Okay, I got to actually do it without the layer mask. Delete the layer mask. Okay. Because I want to actually paint over some of this stuff. And give it a definitely more painted look. I think if I had really a clean scan of the lines, I would be okay not doing this part of the rendering, because the sharpness of the lines would be there, but with it being a JPEG, low res web based JPEG, I think I need something to pop these edges a bit more. Yeah, because that really puts that. It's not quite a glow, but just gives it a very, I don't know, expressive, strong light. The way we actually see things. My background, as I said, was in painting, but it was also kind of in observational painting, like still lives and landscapes and figure studies. And so a lot of my thought process is that it should be, we don't see things outlined. That's not what our brains do. That's how we represent it in comics, because it's a lot easier, and especially back when the printing presses were designed for that. It gives it a shine reflection. My perspective, though. Thank you. So yeah, I try to, if I could. I mean, back when I was younger and more naive, I'm now old and not quite as naive, I was very much wanting to be the next Alex Ross. I wanted to do full painted work, and I think that has stuck with me a little bit now that I have the opportunity to color more, is to actually be much more painterly in my approaches and do some of those type of things. It's definitely, I am by far no Alex Ross, but but I do like to create that sense of painterliness to a piece. I'm giving him kind of that standard scowlish sort of thing. Um, blend this just a little bit to make it not quite the harsh edge. Again, I'm only doing this because I have the liberty to do it in a low res form. If Philip had a high res that I sent to me, I would not take these kind of liberties because without their permission, without the artist's permission, because this, in my opinion, would be a violation of the colorist's trust that the penciler gives you. Um, a what is it? The doctors, do no harm sort of thing, or whatever that is. That's kind of my philosophy on coloring too. Is I am not. Oops, gosh, I'm not here to remake and undo all the penciler's hard work. I am here to enhance and supplement it with as best I can with the knowledge set that I have. Um, I don't want to be overpowering, and unless given the free reign to do something like a paint over. Um, Freddie and I have done some of that before in the past with covers on some Dark Horse books, where he would pencil digitally, pencil in a outline, basically a wireframe form, and I would then go in and paint them digitally. And that was, I think, the only time I ever felt I had the true free reign to just go nuts and do whatever I felt like in the colors. Um, I mean, even then we talked and did critiques, or we reviewed it, and he had revisions. That's what I'm looking for, revisions, not critiques. Um, and that worked out really well, especially considering our relationship and our understanding and mutual respect for what we each brought to the table. Um, I knew he could draw the hell out of it, and I just wanted to be able to contribute my part, and he respected that very well. It's quite nice actually, and allowed me to actually just kind of play and do my thing, and it was also a learning experience because I wasn't. I mean, I got the job and I got paid for it, but I was still, in my opinion, quite the noob at it and didn't really understand what exactly I was aiming for. Um, so some of them were less successful than others. We'll put it that way. But I think overall, it made me a much better colorist to be able to work and experiment freely with an artist, which is pretty much the only reason I can do things like this now, is because of those experiences in the past. I guess I could get a little philosophical about the past type stuff, where might as well. It's my channel. I can say what I want. I don't live very much with regret. I have had my fair share of bad work experiences, bad color experiences, bad clients. Um, I try not to hold those grudges because I always learned from them. I learned what to do, how to be a more professional artist, how to be a more professional business person. There are so many times that I just was frustrated with the lack of professionalism by some clients, and publishers, to be honest. Nobody that I presently have any affiliation to, by the way. Um, but yeah, there were many times that things just did not go the way I thought they should, and to be able to learn from them in a way that kind of makes me feel that it wasn't a wasted adventure. That yeah, it was a crappy time and things didn't go well, but I stuck with it. I learned from it and came out the other side stronger. That is kind of what I hope for with every job. Not that they I don't hope they go south, but but that I become stronger because of it. And so far, I think I've been very fortunate in that aspect. And maybe I mean some of it is my outlook on it that I believe in learning from mistakes. Um, I think some of the greatest moments in my life have come from mistakes, or things that I would caution other people against in hindsight. But I also think that sorry, I got distracted with some rendering here because I like doing rendering. I also think that some of those mistakes are unfortunate, but I don't hold them against my whole life score of adventure. So if that makes any sense, but again, my channel, I can wax philosophical if I want. Um, I don't know, what time is it? It's almost 2:30. So my son is going to be home soon. He will probably wondering what the heck I'm doing talking to myself, but I might still stick with this. Although I do have a lot of work on my plate. I am currently, as some of you know, I'm currently coloring, a little pimping here, Batman and Turtles Volume 2, issue number 5 is the one that's actually currently on my plate. Um, I am also coloring, um, yeah, blanking on all these things. Section 0, which is Carl Kiesel and Tom Grummett's Kickstarter that got massively funded, for good reason. Oh, and there's the garage door. He's home. Um, and so yeah, those are the main projects I'm working on right now. I got a book that's about the Hawaiian surfer, some guy who was very big in the surfing community in the, I want to say 60s. I don't know. I just got the pages this week. That's being drawn by Ron Randall, and I talked to him a little bit, and it sounds like we will be using some of those pages as some live stream material for me to color those. And I've got commissions. I'm doing a couple of commissions right now, but unfortunately they are unable to be shown because they are for specific clients that have likeness issues and stuff like that. And yeah, but I would like to get more standard commissions that would allow me to do live streams of them, because I think that would be a lot of fun. I am definitely going way more painterly than I ever expected I would on this piece. Hopefully that's okay with Philip. He said he was interested in seeing the final result, so hopefully he'll let me use other pieces again in the future. I'm screwing up this face though. I can't tell because of the low res. I know that the nose is popping out, and I know that the fabric on the face is pulling. I just don't know exactly how to make it pull in the right directions. So I might have to have him get back to me with some information about how he would like me to handle that. keep scratching my face and hitting my microphone. I apologize. There is a nice, there's that kind of ochre yellow color that's kind of my rim on this side. Just pull that into there. Make that leg pop forward a little bit. And I have not hardly even touched this hand yet. Okay. I'll probably work on that next time. Okay. So, as much as I want to keep going on this piece, I think I'm going to stop for now. And I will pick back up on it Thursday at 1 o'clock. That's, like I said, going to try and be my streaming schedule. And we'll go from there. Again, so this is, as a recap, the Black Panther, copyright Marvel Comics, lines by Pt1. And I will see you guys on Thursday. And until then, be good.